What if the happiest place on Earth was really a factory that chews up heroes and spits out pay tubs? Tonight we pull back the curtain on Disney's dark obsession with pennies, an obsession so toxic it blew up the Marvel universe, bankrupted its own staff, and turned fan favorites into corporate rebels. Buckle up, Disney's first self-inflicted wound. The call came while Jeremy Renner was still counting titanium screws in his leg. 8 months after a 14-ton Snowcat cracked 30 bones and stopped his heart for a silent minute. Disney's finance office rang with what they called great news. Hawkeye Season 2 was a go, but the offer landed like a poisoned arrow. Twice the stunt load, 8 months of bruises, half the paycheck he earned before the accident. Renner listened, steady breaths, the only souvenir from the breathing drills that kept him alive on that snowy driveway. Then he asked the question that would ricochet across the internet. Do you think I'm only half the Jeremy, because I got run over when the accountant began hedging? He cut the line short. Go fly a 10 words, a few million retweets, and suddenly the world glimpsed the grin behind Disney's magic peeling away to expose iron teeth. It wasn't the first time a hero walked out of the kingdom long before Infinity Stones and multiversal madness. Edward Norton tried giving Bruce Banner real demons, panic attacks, childhood trauma scenes that made the Hulk feel human. Studio execs watched test audiences shift in their seats and smelled lower toy sales overnight. The cut went brighter, punchier, easier to package on lunchboxes. Norton protested, skipped press junkets, and woke to headlines labeling him difficult and not a team player. By the time Earth's mightiest heroes assembled, the Green Rage monster wore a new face, and Norton's name was scrubbed from Phase 1 history. Joss Whedon should have read the warning etched between the lines. The first Avengers film broke every record in sight, yet while confetti still drifted across Times Square, he was already drowning in studio memos. Lose the farmhouse scene, they said. More Hulkbuster, more catchphrases. Less quiet, the final fight in Age of Ultron may have lit up Ultron's sky, but it dimmed its director by the premiere. Whedon looked hollowed, muttering about exhaustion and invisible chains. A billion-dollar victory parade felt like the trudge out of a war zone, and he never came back. Even the stars who stayed discovered the smile turned sharp if they slipped during one late-night junket. Chris Evans and Renner lobbed a lazy joke calling Black Widow a name that belongs in a high school bathroom stall. Not a Marvel press room. Cameras captured it. Twitter amplified it, and Disney raced to smother the clip beneath corporate apologies. The brand survived, but the cracks spread like hairline. Fractures through Captain America's shield. Scarlett Johansson knew exactly where those fractures led. Her contract promised a share of box office treasure, but when a pandemic closed theaters, Disney jumped ship to streaming, leaving her bonus bobbing alone in empty auditoriums. The studio responded with a press release so smug it might as well have been signed by the evil queen. Her claim was sad, her feelings ignored the realities of and by the way, she already pocketed $20 million. The statement detonated every goodwill dam Disney had built since Walt sketched a mouse on a train ride. Unions lined up behind her, fans stormed comment sections, columnists wondered aloud how a company selling princess morals could twist the knife so publicly. Within weeks, the House of Mouse surrendered tens of millions in an undisclosed settlement, paying more to bury the headline than it would have cost to keep its promise. Carrie didn't have Johansson's star wattage yet. Her story echoed the same tight-fisted chorus. She voiced Proxima Midnight, brought menace to every gravel, voiced threat, then opened her contract for Endgame to find an offer that wouldn't cover a month of Los Angeles rent. She declined her villain, returned with a digital double and a different throat, and fans barely noticed. Disney certainly did. They'd learned how cheap loyalty could be replaced. Now Renner's refusal lights the fuse again. A man who faced death in the snow, who recorded physical therapy sessions so fans could see Hawkeye learning to stand before his daughter's birthday, is told his value melted alongside the Lake Tahoe ice. His rebuke travels faster than any arrow he ever loosed on screen. Striking a nerve long left raw viewers remember Norton's exile, Whedon's burnout, Johansson's courtroom showdown, Coon's quiet exit. They tally Bob Iger's $65 million payday against cast member testimonies of eating ramen in parking lots between shifts, and the equation no longer balances. One question hangs in the air like Mjolnir, waiting for a worthy hand. If Disney will slash the pay of an original Avenger, who literally rebuilt his body to keep playing a hero, what are they quietly doing to the thousands of nameless workers shuffling through underground tunnels beneath Cinderella Castle? That answer lurks beyond the turn. Styles where cast members trade pixie dust for food stamps and sleep in backseats parked just far enough from Main Street to avoid security flashlights. That is the story waiting in the shadows, and it's coming next night. Falls on Anaheim, and the Matterhorn's fake snow glows blue, but out in the employee parking lot, real snow jackets double as comforters. A custodian named Elise cracks her car door to let stale air out. She's been living in that sedan for 3 months because Disney Magic pays $13 an hour in a studio apartment in Orange County. Starts at $2,000. She keeps her uniform folded on the back seat so it doesn't wrinkle. A guest once told her, "You're so lucky to work here." She smiled, said, "Have a magical day," and tried not to think about the ramen noodles cooling on the dashboard. Elise isn't a rumor. In 2018, researchers surveyed 5,000 Disneyland workers. 85% earned less than $15 an hour. 73% skipped meals or bills. 11% had been homeless in the past 2 years. One security guard confessed to showering in the locker room before curling up on a back seat to sleep, praying the janitorial crew wouldn't tap on the window. Cast members, Disney calls them, as if a fancy title erases hunger management, laughed off the survey, claiming the questions were union-rigged and trumpeting an average wage of $17. Average hides everything. Bob Iger pockets $65 million, and intern pockets minimum wage. The spreadsheet averages them into something that looks respectable. The Department of Labor dug deeper and found Disney was docking costume fees, forcing pay below Florida's minimum $3.8 million in back wages. Later, the company called it a misunderstanding. Abigail Disney, granddaughter of Walt's brother Roy, heard whispers of cast members sleeping in cars. She walked the park undercover, asked employees to level with her. One janitor burst into tears, describing 2 jobs, no rent money, and the sick game of choosing between gas or groceries. Abigail crunched the numbers. Iger's bonus alone could bump every Disneyland wage by 15%, and he would still keep $10 million. She went on national TV and said it out loud. Corporate PR labeled her comments a gross and unfair exaggeration. The granddaughter of the co-founder had become an outsider in the kingdom, bearing her name, while Elise wipes down trash cans. Disney Finance drafts severance packages that read like lottery tickets. Bob Chapek gets $20 million to leave after barely 2 years in the corner. Off Jeff Morrell earns $8.3 million for 70 workdays, $119,000. Every sunrise then bails before remembering any parking lot. Custodian's name in the break room. Someone pulls up the numbers on a cracked phone. 1 executive day equals 3 years of sweeping popcorn. The silence that follows feels heavier than Splash Mountain's final drop. The pattern isn't new. In 1941, Disney animators struck for 9 weeks over starvation wages in the 90s. Mickey Mouse pajamas were stitched by Haitian women, earning 28 cents an hour. Disney blamed the contractor, collected licensing fees, and moved on. Different decade. Same blueprint sparkle on the screen. Squeeze behind the curtain. Back on Main Street, a parade blasts Happy Brass, while a balloon vendor discreetly counts which groceries she can skip to pay rent. Her shift ends. She heads for the car camp at the edge of the lot. She passes a billboard of Iron Man soaring beneath the slogan, "Heroes aren't born, they're man." She remembers hearing that Robert Downey Jr. pocketed $75 million for Endgame, while her friend in merchandising was clocking out at 11.5 cents. Was clocking out at 11.5. 2 female analysts sue for equal pay after discovering male colleagues with the same title earned $40,000 more. Their case mushrooms into 10,000 women, alleging $150 million in underpayment. Disney denies everything, fights for 6 years, then settles for more than $250 million in wage theft. Claims California's biggest court. Documents describe managers telling women, promotion paths are not for you. Magic indeed. Elise hears about the settlement during a break. A coworker scrolls the headline and jokes, maybe they'll trickle some down to gas money. They laugh because the alternative is crying. A manager sticks his head in and reminds them the smiles have to reach their eyes when the guests arrive. They nod, slip on name tags, and practice that 15-hour grin. Somewhere in Burbank, a meeting decides ticket prices can climb again next quarter. Executives predict guest counts won't drop. Nostalgia is recession-proof, but something unseen is fray. Parents pushing strollers, sense it in the half-masks of exhausted staff. Fans online, sense it in the stories of parking lot showers. Jeremy Renner's arrow of a sentence had pierced more than a contract offer. It punctured the illusion that magic costs nothing. Suddenly, every underpaid custodian, every fired animator, every exhausted VFX artist has a spotlight tomorrow. Elise will clock in, wave at children, sweep confetti beneath fireworks. Tonight, she stares at the castle from the asphalt and wonders how many smiles one paycheck is supposed to buy the drone. Show spells believe across the sky. She does, but it isn't Disney she trusts anymore. Something has to break, and when it does, no parade soundtrack will be loud enough to drown the sound. Jonathan Major was supposed to be Marvel's new crown jewel, the time-warping tyrant, who would reshape the next decade of box office history. Then on a gray December afternoon in 2023, a jury said guilty. King the Conqueror vanished in a single gavel strike, and Disney's billion-dollar blueprint fluttered through the air like confetti after a parade that ended too soon. The studio needed an instant fix. Something so shiny, fans would forget their new emperor was gone. Phones rang and a number Robert Downey Jr. hadn't seen since Endgame lit up his screen. Downey listened, amused. They weren't asking him to revive Tony Stark. They wanted him to play Doctor Doom. Irony, so rich it felt scripted by the universe. The figure they pitched dwarfed every offer Jeremy Renner had ever seen, enough zeros to erase any memory of equal pay lawsuits and parking lot bedrooms. The accountants who sliced Renner's paycheck in half opened the vault without hesitation for their original golden child consistency. Never was the game. Optics always was, while contract talks swirled in secret. Marvel's visual effects teams tried to bend reality on tighter budgets than ever. One supervisor cracked a joke that turned into prophecy. They won't stop squeezing us until the frames bleed. Artists slept under desks to finish the purple glow around a villain who no longer existed. A junior compositor live tweeted a 23-hour scherf, then deleted it. when HR reminded her of the NDA she signed in exchange for healthcare that barely covered her carpal tunnel brace. Yet the machines kept rolling on the set of She-Hulk. A background extra stood on a mark, smiled and watched a scanner whirl around her head. 10 minutes later, she was dismissed with a $50 check and a promise her likeness might appear in future episode. Translation: We own you now, in ones and zeros. Thank you for playing. Rumor spread that thousands of faces were archived in a vault, labeled crowd assets, ready to populate any street scene without paying the people who once filled them. The passive income model, Human Edition in Glendale, a different kind of archive, hummed shelves of classic animation cells, gathered dust, hand-drawn dreams from artists long retired or long dead in 2004. Disney had shut the 2D studio part of a cost-cutting measure, sold as embracing new technology. Translation: Computers don't unionize. Every princess that had once danced under a rostrum camera now lived inside a spreadsheet alongside projected ticket sales and merchandising revenue. The pressure cooker hissed loudest inside Marvel's writer rooms, where showrunners received memos titled Streaming Cost Controls 6 episodes is the new 9, 3 locations, the new 6. Kill the car chase. Unless it sells toys, one writer suggested rewriting a scene so the finale happened in an empty hangar, walls already textured in previous films to save money on sets. Another joked that soon every hero arc would resolve in front of the same green wall with different lighting. No one lacked compared notes in private group chats. Word spread about Carrie Coon's insult offer, about Johansson's settlement, about Rayner's arrow through the heart rebuttal. Someone posted a screenshot of an early Avengers press photo with a new caption: When you realize your action figure earns more residuals than you hearts reacted, then skull emojis, then silence. As each participant remembered the final line of their ND, outside the studio gates, Abigail Disney kept touring campuses and conferences, repeating her family's inconvenient math: pay fairly or pay eventually. She warned shareholders, listen just long enough to glance at the quarterly dividend and move on. But the lawsuits kept multiplying. 10,000 women demanding back pay, 50,000 park employees waiting on settlement checks, VFX unions whispering about a strike that would freeze every cape in midair. Disney settled here, delayed there, spun everywhere, yet the legal bills stacked higher than Sleeping Beauty Castle. On social media, fans began stitching Rayner's half the Jeremy line onto clips of Iron Man walking away from an explosion, onto images of Elsa building an ice palace for minimum wage laborers, onto overhead shots of cars clustered like tin coffins in the employee lot. Hashtag shifted from Disney Magic to Disney Math. A running tally of executive bonuses versus meal plan prices. The accountant soldiered on, convinced the brand could survive any headline, but the VFX supervisor who hadn't slept in 36 hours accidentally rendered a keyframe, with Kang's helmet floating beside an empty cape. The glitch went viral before marketing. Noticed commenters wrote, "Perfect metaphor, villain gone studio hollow by sundown." An editor had patched the shot, yet the meme lived forever. Downey finally signed. The number was eye-watering, no profit share this time, just raw cash. A golden band-aid for a gaping multiverse wound. Disney issued a triumphant press release about celebrating our legacy while charting bold new territory in a Florida break room. A janitor refreshed her bank app and saw no change. She shrugged, tightened her ponytail, and went back to scrubbing cosmic purple soda off the tie. High above the custodial closet, a banner read, "Here you leave today and enter the world of yesterday, tomorrow, and fantasy." She whispered the line. Every shift like a spell yesterday, the heroes were underpaid tomorrow, they'd be scanned in store. Fantasy was the hope, something might finally break open, loud, enough for the whole world to see the reckoning. Begins at dawn, not with fanfare, but with a stack of subpoenas so thick, security needs a dolly to wheel them through the gates. 50,000 names crowd the first filing, janitors, ride operators, princesses, stormtroopers, each one owed back pay. Disney skimmed by charging for costumes, denying breaks, or miscalculating overtime. The number on page 1 hovers at $233 million. That is only the appetizer by lunchtime. Another doorstop lawsuit lands, this time from 10,000 women who spent years discovering the man in the next cubicle pocketed 40 grand more for the same title. HR had called those pay gaps market variance. A judge calls them wage theft. Lawyers calculate interest. The bill hits 150 million and keeps climbing. Shareholders refresh their phones between parade. Floats the stock graph, dips like a roller coaster. Crest Finance assures the board that settlements are cheaper than trials. Brand analysts insist the public will forget by holiday season, and legal drafts, NDAs, so tight they squeak. But Abigail Disney is back on cable news, reading deposition quotes aloud, and the anchors don't cut to commercial. Deep in Imagineering, a designer pauses over a concept for a futuristic ride. Every rivet reminds him of late nights, no longer compensated because streaming content isn't subject to standard residuals. He slips a union card into his pocket. Across town, VFX artists file paperwork to form a guild. One tweets a frame from a recent trailer, glittering heroes, broken ragdoll physics, and captions it, "Crunch doesn't create magic, it breaks it." The tweet pulls 50,000 likes before HR calls her extension. Bob Iger schedules a town hall webcast to stem the bleeding. He appears in front of a matte-painted castle backdrop, gestures at charts showing record attendance, speaks of shared sacrifice, global headwinds, and honoring Walt's vision. A custodial lead watching from the break room whispers, "Shared with who?" and shuts the laptop when the coffee machine drowns the audio anyway. Even the licensing arm feels the tremor. A children's clothing factory in Vietnam uploads footage of steam-soaked sewing lines, announcing a walkout for fair pay. Mickey silhouettes dangle unfinished on the conveyor belt. Retail partners call Burbank demanding product. Burbank calls the contractor who calls the workers who have turned off their phones. The brand that conquered every continent suddenly can't stitch a sleeve across the lot. Robert Downey Jr. arrives for costume test. PR snaps photos. Fans gasp at leaked images of him in Doom's midnight armor. Yet the moment he removes the mask, he asks an assistant whether the janitors really are sleeping in vans. No one answer. He signs autographs, steps back onto his mark beneath lights, powered by a grid of accountants and NDAs rather than imagination in Anaheim. The janitor named Elise clocks out, checks her phone and sees a breaking headline. Disney settles. Largest wage theft case in California history. She scrolls further. No numbers yet, only the promise of meaningful restitution. She doesn't cheer. She's heard promises before, but in the parking lot rows of cars honk horns like a makeshift parade, and for the first time she smiles, without forcing it. Night fireworks burst over the castle, but something feels different in the air, like the silence just after a spell breaks. Guests still gasp, children still dance, yet parents trade, knowing glances when the PA thanks cast members for their dedication. They've read the same headline. Jeremy Renner opens his mailbox in Nevada and finds a new proposal: full salary, restored stunt budget, doubled flexible schedule for physical therapy. He sets it beside medical bills he already paid out of pocket, rubs the scar on his jaw, and wonders if the offer comes from contrition or desperation. He doesn't decide. Tonight, for the first time in years, the choice feels like inside corporate headquarters. A strategist opens a fresh deck titled Magic 2, slide 3 quotes. Walt, you can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. The strategist stares at that sentence. Outside his office, people are gathering signatures, comparing contracts, mapping a future where dreams aren't financed by hunger. It is said that all stories revolve around transformation. Heroes fall, villains rise, kingdoms change or crumb. Tonight, the fireworks echo across empty office corridors and crowded break rooms alike, and in the hush between explosions, a new narrative presses forward. No more magic built on invisible misery. No more castles balanced on car-crafted roofs and ramen cup. Whether Disney can rewrite itself or fades into cautionary, legend is still uncertain, but the spell is broken, and the audience is wide awake. Magic, they realize, was never the castle or the cape. It was the people all along.